life. And if you're listening to this and you're saying like, I might never do it. No. I'm even talking to you, the homeowner who might just do a kitchen remodel. It's going to be one of the hardest things you ever do in your life. Believe it or not, it's going to be financially stressful. It's going to be stressful with time. You're going to be living in a mess.
Choices.
Oh, the choices. Yeah. That's
it's like going to the Cheesecake Factory. Dear God, just point me to one page. I don't need all that choice.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's what it is. It's such a challenge. And the other thing too is, and I didn't realize this until we became developers. So where I'm recording this from right now is I'm sitting in our office that we designed and built and developed ourselves. Very proud of it. It's part of a 9-unit development here in Longmont on a third of an acre. What I didn't realize until we actually sold some of the townhomes / condos to, the open market and the public and everything. And getting that experience of having those kind of customers at the very end of it, right? Because if you're an architect, you're only going to wade into the building process by just visiting the site and answering some questions. If you're a builder, you're only going to wade into the architecture side of it a little bit because you're going to be talking with the architects, the structural engineers, and all of that. If you're a developer, but like who in the triangle is going to actually talk to the customers at the end of it? It's the developer. So when we actually sold units and we got feedback from people, I don't know why it took me so long to get to this conclusion. And the conclusion is, oh my gosh, buildings are like the last things on earth that are made by hand. Like that's hard. That's really hard to do. So I think there's it's one of the last crafts. I mean, in its totality. And I really take pride in, and it's an honor to do it. And the thing I have a project foreman at F14 Productions. That's our construction company, and a carpenter. We're hiring a summer intern. But I tell all of those employees, I tell all the guys, I go, guys, we are making a positive impact in people's lives. Like they can physically see it. You might affect somebody's life in the most positive way just by building their house. Because like I have a lot of architects, friends and colleagues that are commercial architects. And I love all architects, but there is a rivalry of like, commercial architecture is more important. No, residential architecture is more important. Seriously. And my argument is, you live in the house. Seems pretty important to me, guys. Like we can argue we're all important, but you can't just say how people who do custom homes or even remodels. We do a lot of remodels for like the 3% of the world, not the 1%.
Our castle? Isn't that our castle, our homes?
Yeah, exactly.
Our castle. I love the fact that you have the challenge and you love the challenge and you love the journey, but there's also the reward. One of the things that always struck me, and I was just like, wow, you can't really replace this, is as I drive down the street, built it, designed it, built it, designed it, built it. You see that reward, and then seeing families grow up there. And then maybe sometimes, I don't know if you're old enough yet, but they'll sell and then the next family grows up there. How rewarding is that?
Oh, it's so rewarding. Yeah. Especially because it is, again, back to the stress. I've designed and built my own house with my wife in 2015. So I got to experience that too. And we didn't build it physically. I wasn't even the GC. We kind of didn't have a choice. The developer / GC who built it is now one of my better friends. But being on that truly the customer side of things and knowing like, oh, we just want to get into our house, and how stressful that last 30 to 45 days is. It doesn't matter if we're building for like a business owner, that same kind of stress comes because the lease is, the time is running, all, interest, you want to get cash flow positive, yada, 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 and all of that stuff and under the sun. But to then get them past that finish line, man, the joy that explodes and they can see it in their face is really something to behold. And again, the effect you have on people's lives is huge.
I love that it matters to you that you have this positive effect on people's lives, and that you're building for the joy. You're using all the languaging that makes us so happy, that brings happiness to people, but doing something that brings you joy as well. And your team. It sounds like your team is, collectively looking at how you're positively impacting people. What's the meaning for you in the depths of your soul about that positive impact that you're creating? Why is that so important to you?
in the depths of my soul, why would that be so important to me?
Yeah.
I think everybody has an ego, obviously, right? So if part of my ego is that I think I'm going to leave a legacy, I think that's if I had to really draw it out, I think that's where it comes from, is like, look, I could die tomorrow. My wife would probably sell the house. It would be just too big for her. And then does that house live on for the next 75 years and affect people in a very positive way? Same thing with the office building we're sitting in, or any other kind of stuff that we have done. Or even if people are just looking visually at the thing and then they become inspired by it. When we teach at CU, one of the things we say is like, an epiphany we had as students, and then eventually practicing professionals and professors, was I don't even know if anybody actually invented the wheel. Like, what I'm getting at is everybody just does modifications of the wheel. Everybody just builds on top of each other. It's okay to not think that you have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
So even if they're seeing my work or they're hearing my words on this podcast in the future, there's some positivity is a good thing, and putting it out there in the universe is much more fulfilling to me than actually having any kind of very awesome possessions and everything like that. It's almost hard to explain the intangible, reciprocal positive feeling I get from doing those positive things.
It's funny that you say that, because I was having a conversation with a dear friend out in Arizona, Dr. Trish. We were having this really deep conversation about something. And I said, yeah, I thought it was interesting that you had gone through this process where you reduced the amount of possessions that you had. And I said, and I just recently went through that too, and I'm going through it. And what I had discovered is I no longer had to surround myself with all these possessions, because I had surrounded myself with people that mattered. And that fulfilled me way more than all the stuff. And so, the same thing when you surround yourself with this beautiful architecture, I mean, breathtaking architecture that you sit there and you make into your own home. And that's why it takes you some time to make that new space into yours. When you make it into yours, you've just taken something that you, Lance, could have designed, developed, and built and made it your own. And that's why, for me, I will help you with your argument with your commercial people. We win because residential is now your life. It's part of how you live your life. It's part of your environment that creates the joyous life that you have. So it's a beautiful thing that you do. You're listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. We're going to take a short break, but we're going to come back and talk more with Lance. He is amazing, amazing architect out in Colorado. And the name of your company is F9 Productions, right? F9productions.com for more information. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne Casdia. If you would like to be a guest or lift up your business, product, or non-for-profit, all you have to do is send a question or a comment to us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. That's healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. We really love to hear from you, and we answer every single email that we get, and we appreciate the comments that have been coming in. We love you too, just in case you wanted to know. Really appreciate you listening to our radio show and our podcast. We're just so grateful to have you around. In the meantime, you know this, I know this. I am a business coach and strategist, empowering, educating, and igniting people to take action with jet propulsion. I have developed a proven 3-step system that will provide a strategy, make it easy for visionary entrepreneurs like Lance to take action, although Lance takes a lot of action. We activate behavioral changes, and we show you exactly how to define who you are in order to reach your personal and professional goals. And we do this from disrupting limiting beliefs to cultivating confidence to mastering communication skills to architecting, no pun intended, actionable plans. And I work with people from taking them from confusion to clarity in their lives while aligning to their vision, perfecting their message so that they can follow their dreams. So welcome back. Today, we're speaking with Lance Cayko. He is a multi-talented serial entrepreneur, architect, builder, lecturer, and podcaster. And we have been having a very just informative, fun conversation about what he does and how what he does is so important and germane. So Here's a question that's always like just rubbing on me is how architects can help homeowners and business owners. How can you go about doing that? Because it's so the sage advice and the things that you tell us, there's so many choices out there. It can be mind numbing. Again, I mentioned in the first segment, it's like going to the Cheesecake Factory. There are just too many choices for me. Just limit it to 3 and I'll be able to collect that. So how do you help and empower homeowners and business owners when you design for them?
I think in a couple different ways, and I'm not sure most architects would agree with my number one idea, and that is we need to be their mediator between them and the government. Because that's what in the first segment of the show, we were talking and I said, look, even though we have to ask for permission from the government to build buildings, once you get past that, it's a very free time. I mean, you kind of can do what you want. And yes, there's OSHA and all the other stuff, but so every 3 years.
So let me back up a second before you do that. Before you get into the every 3 years, there's a reliance. A lot of people don't understand why the government gets involved. There's a reliance that we have when we buy, let's just say, a 1 acre property. And in my area, when I buy a 1 acre property, I have a reliance that the government is going to make sure that the area stays 1 acre and doesn't become, I don't have a commercial building next to me. I have a reliance that if I have a property that's open, somebody's not going to build a commercial building next to me. So that's one of the many reasons they get involved. Other reasons are financial, and that's where we can get in discussions that will not be pleasant. But for the most part, it is about that we as homeowners and property owners can rely and trust that the people who are living around us are going to uphold the area that we have. So I understand that. And it's also, so it's for safety purposes, because sometimes in certain states, they don't even have the codes that we have. We have in New York, I'm in New York, we have a ridiculous amount of codes. I mean, it's like ridiculous amount of codes. I think it's way over the top, but the reliance allows us to make sure that people are safe. And that's one of the things your license is dependent upon, is keeping people safe when you build that house. That structure is going to stand, right?
Yeah, that's the theory. Exactly. I mean, that's the big pitch by the AIA, is that the licensure is all about health, safety, and welfare of the public, which makes sense. And I think going through the ritual, like you said about earlier, and about going through school, it's much the same with licensure. Part of it is ritualistic, but it's a good ritual because it makes sure that you pass the test, the knowledge, and you can sort of be this encyclopedia that can't typically recall exact stuff, but mostly the right stuff and point you in the right direction to go dive into that code.
And the reality is when we go to college or we get a certification in something, there's a point where that certification gets vexed by actual experience. And that experience overshadows any certificate or, graduation certificate that you may have, diploma that you may have. So that's where your experience comes in and you get better at it. My example is this. My brother's a doctor, neonatologist. And when he first started, he used to send his babies to all the tests. So let's just say there are 22 tests. He would put them through all 22. As he got better at it, he knew from the symptoms that he didn't need to send them to all of them. He just needed to send them to these 3 or these 5 tests. So through experience, he found his way through how to best serve his clients, which happened to be babies under 5 pounds. So, and you were saying about the architecture.
Yeah. So you're right, Lori, that the idea is, there's a planning department, there's a building department, and the idea is they're there to be safeguards and a sense of security, and sort of just like a framework baseline for that. We can argue all day long about how good or bad it is, because there's always unintended consequences. Correct. Whenever there's a new law or a new code or anything like that. But my point is, back to the 3 years, is every 3 years, I don't know, the general public I don't think knows this, every 3 years, there's a new building code. It's just like another version. So 2015, 2018, 2021. In my opinion, I think it would be okay if we went all the way back to the 2006 codes and then stopped. But we're not going to. I can't change that. So what do I do in that sort of system? How do I be stoic about it?
Right.
Like Marcus Aurelius was if he was alive. And that's where the architects come in. So it is because it's increasingly complicated, and we're not going to change it. Right. It's just going to keep expanding. Then the number one thing I think architects can do for their clients, doesn't matter if it's a house, doesn't matter if it's a commercial building, is help them navigate through that process.
Beautiful.
Help them understand, first of all, how long is it going to take once you hire us, the architects, for just to do our job? Second, how long is it going to take you to get through the plan?